Hi, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel, Just Life with Justice. If you guys don't know me, get to know me. I am Justice. If it is your first time here, please hit the subscribe button, okay? And turn on that notification bell so that way you guys can get updates when I am posting, okay? I post every Wednesday at 7 p.m., but I also post on YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the links are below if you guys want to check it out and know more about me. So, but with the ones who are always returning and supporting, hi, beautiful people. I hope your day is going great. You guys know me. I am ready to get into it. So let's do it. All right. There's no prayer card this week. And that's okay, though. Okay. Because I told y'all what happens when the Lord tells me to go somewhere, I'm going to go. But here's the crazy part, right? We are going to be taking a look into into something that I believe is talked about and preached about, but I don't really hear it about from this perspective. And we are going to be talking about relationships. We're going to take a deep dive into this. And listen, let me tell y'all something. If you don't want your toes stepped on, I advise you to put some tennis shoes on or click off this video, because when I tell y'all, everybody about to get snatched up, okay? And let's just start this off by saying in relationships, no matter what it is, there's always stages, right? But specifically to relationships with significant others, we all go through these phases, right? Especially if it happened over time. So year one, right? You know, we love to I call that the Delulu stage, okay? You're very delusional in the air. You don't care. You know, you're just like, I'm just happy to be here. You know, like I love that I'm around you, right? Like I love that you love that I'm around you. You know, like you're just puppy love, right? I love calling that the Delulu stage, because if there are red flags, honey, they're gone. They're blowing in the wind somewhere over there. They're just not existent. But then after a year or so, you know, I don't want to put a time frame on it because it is different for everybody else, but this is just experience. So then after a year or so, that's when you start to be like, okay, maybe I don't like the way that they eat their chicken. No, I'm joking. But we start to look and see different parts of them that maybe they have not ever exposed or shown. So I love to call the second phase the exposing phase. It doesn't necessarily mean that exposing all the bad characters and traits, but you are literally being able to have access to them the way that no one has ever had access. That is not even their parents, you know, not their families or friends. So during this exposing phase, you are getting the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, right? And so after, we're going to call it the building phase, okay? And this building phase, this is where you are trying to take all that information, knowing what you know about them, knowing what they know about you, put it together, and you're trying to build something, right? You're building a life together. You know, you guys laid the foundation, and now you're building, right? And the crazy part about it is during this time, this is where everything starts happening, right? So maybe like you're building, but then something happens in a relationship that maybe cause you guys to fall, and then you guys have to start rebuilding. So it's a lot of trial and error. I'm gonna give y'all a little story. So yesterday, my whole family, my fiance and our daughter was at my mom's. And so our daughter was back there just, you know, playing, minding her business. And she was so excited to build this tower. Like she was talking about it. Like she could not wait to go back there and build these blocks. Right. And so she goes back there, you know, me and my mom is still chatting it up in the living room, and she's back there just like, you know, doing her thing. She comes running in the living room, like excited, like, Mama, like, I built the princess castle, and come and look. And she was so excited about it. So we go back there, we look at it, and my mom, you know, she's hyping her up. And about 15 minutes later, she comes back. And this time she's not happy. She has the tears in her eyes. She's making a sad face. And she's like, my, my tower fall. And she was very sad. I remember my mom telling her, she was like, well, London, if nothing fell on it, if nothing happened to it, then it has to be the person who built it and the structure that is standing on, right? It has to be, there's something wrong with the structure of this building if it just fell and nothing touched it, nothing hit it, right? And y'all know what happens with Legos, right? Y'all know what happens with these toy building blocks is that anything can knock it over. The smallest thing can knock it over, right? And it just fall apart, and then you just keep rebuilding. And that's what happens with the relationship, is that you're not really laying down the true foundation, which we know when a relationship is built on God, not flesh, that is where the foundation lies. And then you are able to build brick by brick with your spouse. And that's not what is happening. And sometimes we don't have that understanding. And then when it all falls, now we don't know where to go. Okay. Y'all, I am talking from experience. I got permission from my man. Okay. From Tayo to talk about this. Hopefully one day, like, I can get him on here. But last night / this morning, we had a really, really good conversation and just kind of thinking about our relationship and like how it has evolved over the years. We're still figuring out life, but I definitely think that our story can help other people, and maybe other couples are going through it. But I will tell you this, all right? I consider me and Tayo young folks, okay? I consider being young. We met, to give y'all a time frame, we met back in 2016, but we started dating in 2019. And 2019, I was 19 years old when we started dating, and he was 21. So we've been together going on 7 years. Because we were so young, we really had a lot of growing up to do, but we went through these stages, right? We went through the whole stage of just puppy love, to exposing, to building, then rebuilding. And that is something that ring true to us. We were building with Legos. We had a Lego built relationship, right? And we thought we were doing it right. We thought we were trying to figure it out, because in our mind, in our relationship, we're building brick by brick. But it wasn't. The foundation kept breaking because it wasn't built on God's foundation. It was built on the world's foundation. And so it just kept falling apart. And what really happened during that time was when it had fell to the point of like, I don't know what we can do. It had to be a very hard conversation between Tayo and I. And that conversation really was about a missing piece in our relationship. And I had expressed that to him, and I did tell him there is something missing. At the time, I did not know what it was. I know now that it was God. But during that time, you're still trying to figure it out. And he was very confused. Like, what do you mean something's missing? And it was like, even when we're okay, I still feel some type of disconnect. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is. For 4 years, it was like that. It was going through all the stages, but then we kept rebuilding, but then we would be arguing or not in a good space, being prideful, being of the world. Like, it was just so much that kept like building over those 4 years. 4 years was the hardest years for us because we were just trying to figure it out. December of 2023 is when I started going back to church, but I also started therapy. And I started working on myself, and slowly I started to feel changes of my own accord. And a lot of the things and issues that was happening in a relationship, I started to notice, oh, okay, Justice, sometimes you are the problem. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Nobody in a relationship, nobody ever wants to be the bad guy, right? Nobody wants to know that they did something that hurt someone or made someone feel a type of way. But that's the God honest truth. Sometimes it happens. And that was my issue. That accountability, right? Taking ownership of your part. But as I started on this journey, right, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm learning more about God. But then what I realized was that I started being pulled away from Tayo. And then I immediately stopped and got scared because I was like, I want to follow God. But I also know that when you follow Jesus, if you look at last week's lesson, when you follow Jesus, that comes at a cost. And I was never in a mind space to be able to let go. And that's what God wanted from me. So I had a hard time surrendering and reminding you that I had just started going back to the church. I haven't gave my life back to Christ yet. I haven't fully surrendered everything. You know, we're still, we just tiptoeing. And I remember like to a point where we were still arguing and it was bad. It was just, it felt like we were arguing all the time, mad all the time, just all of it. And I got to a point where I was like, God, I surrender this relationship to you. One of the bravest things that I have ever done. And also I feared that I wouldn't be with him, but that was also something that I had to release to God. If this is not what you have for me, I'm so scared of being judged and becoming a single mom and all of these other things that God, I already know that whatever you have for me is going to be good. Even if it doesn't feel good in the moment, I have to trust you. And I surrendered the relationship. We didn't break up, but I let it be known that he does not come above God and that everything I do, it has to go through God first. I gave my life to God. Have it, take it. And let me tell y'all where my husband is through all of this. I say husband, sorry. I'm going to switch back and forth between husband and fiance. We're getting married. But let me tell you where my husband is through all of this. He is very supportive. He never judged me, looked at me the wrong way, didn't want me to become closer to God. He actually used to watch me worship because I used to shut our bedroom door and I would just turn on the TV and worship and he like peek in. And he's just, he never not supported me during this process. But I was scared because our walk wasn't looking the same because he wasn't where I was. And I didn't know what that looked like for our relationship. And guys, I have to use this word. It's a strong word, but it's also truth. And it's one of those things that's hard to admit, but you got to be honest with yourself. There was a huge season of our relationship where Tayo, for me, became God. And that's what I worshiped. And I know people are probably like, what? Don't click off yet. Let me explain. Everything about our relationship, everything that I had glorified was Tayo, not where God has came in and saved us, not where God has carried us through. It was just more so. And Tayo was never, like I say, he was never the type of person that's like, only me, worship me. Like, absolutely not. Absolutely. He is a real humble, sweet guy. That was of my own accord because I was searching for what I was searching for God. Tayo was just there. And that's what I leaned towards. And so imagine when you're all about a person, you don't hear what God is telling you. So when it came to the point of me having to surrender, I wasn't ready. But I also knew that if I didn't, then I had a bigger fish to fry. Okay. We worship other things. It may not be your relationship. It may be your phone. It may be your friendships. It may be your coworker. It may be it may be your family. Like we put things in place of God that we genuinely don't think twice about. When you are letting go of things and you're putting your trust into God and you are surrendering, you still have your own thoughts because that was me. Even though I chose to surrender to God, I just assumed that Tayo and I were not going to be together anymore. I just assumed that was it for him, it for me. Like that's done. If you have your Bibles, turn to Psalms 37 and we're going to be looking at verse 5. Okay. So Psalms 37 verse 5, it says, commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. Let me tell y'all what happened after I had surrendered to God. Tayo started going to church with me more often. First, he would come like every once in a while, but then he started going like every other week, then every week. Mind you, during that time, he was working third shift on the weekends. This boy was in church front row. If you guys don't know the Cove, it's not a small church. It's a decent sized church. Front row, my man was slumped in sleep. He was knocked out. But one thing about it though, is that he showed up. I had to step back because I knew that a part of me would have forced him to go to church because I wanted him to want what I had and what I was feeling so bad that God really, during that surrender, God said, Justice, I wasn't taking him from you physically, but I had to separate him spiritually and emotionally because Justice, you were trying to do my job. I didn't call you to do that. He is my son. Let me do the work in him, and it's going to go on his story. His walk is not your walk. That doesn't mean that he is not for you. That just means that I have to take him into my own hands and that is not your responsibility. You go work over here and what I have for you. That's what you do. Because then Tayo started carrying the Bible a little more. We started talking about God a little more. And let me tell you something. During that time, while we both were working on giving our lives to Christ, our at-home situation, finances, everything was going good, and then it crashed. So meanwhile, while we're still trying to focus on learning about this God stuff, this relationship stuff, this surrendering stuff, our world's over here is going through it. But let me tell y'all about the prayer of God. And when you put God at the center of your relationship, when we started going through all the financial trouble, it was at the beginning of like us losing our jobs and going from three incomes to one. Never forget this day. This is when I realized, God, you really shifted the entire relationship. So for a few months, I remember when it first happened, I was terrified. And Tayo, he was standing in our bathroom doorway, and Tayo said, Justice, this is what the enemy wants. He wants you to be terrified. And he grabbed my hand. And in the midst of us going through a hard struggle, financial struggle, not knowing what we're going to do, this man grabbed both of my hands and we prayed. And he prayed. One of the things that I realized we lean on our own understanding. And sometimes the things that we understand to be true is based off experiences and timeline. Meaning I've been with this person for X amount of years, for 25 years, for 3 years, for 2 months, whatever. It's like, I don't want to give all that up because that means all of it was nothing. No, it means that all of it was based off you. All of that was based off your flesh. If it's not working over time, that's because God done probably called you to either leave or go a different direction within the relationship, called you to lead it spiritually, and you chose to do it your own way. And then guess what? God has to step in. Y'all don't understand. When God tells you to do something, it's going to happen regardless if you do it the way that he said it or he going to step in himself. And that's the part that is scary. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 10, verse 36, real quick, right? And it says, and a person's enemies will be those of his own household. Whoever loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Y'all continue to put people, loved ones, things, physical things, materialistic things over God. In order to sustain a relationship, God has to be the firm foundation where we are like, God is at the center of our relationship and we cannot move until the Lord tells us. And that builds a stronger foundation with you guys together. You guys have a covenant together, but you can't allow everyone else to come into it. Nor can you think that you are going to build on a relationship that has a foundation that is of the devil and that is of the flesh and that it was never built on God to begin with. Being in a relationship, especially when there are constant changes and transformations, especially when you're giving your life to Christ as individuals and coming together, you have to start over. And I would prefer to start over with the man of God and to start over with the soil of God than to have to literally lose everything because God has been calling me to do something for so long that I just continue to ignore because it doesn't align with what I feel is right. If you cannot choose God over your spouse, over your family, over your finances, over any aspect, over your career, over your job, then you have to take time to reevaluate that. When you surrendering to God, I'm gonna tell you something from experience. God don't answer you right away. No, y'all still gonna be arguing. Yeah, God don't answer you right away. But I had read. Remember when I read earlier where it says, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. He will bring forth your righteous as the light, and your justice as the noonday." Then right after that, this is verse 7. It says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way and over the man who carries out evil devices." The first part of that says, "Be still and patiently wait." It's not going to happen when you want it to. But that doesn't mean that God isn't working on the unity and the transformation. It's best for you to move when God is telling you to than for him to have to remove you or that person. Okay? You got to do the work. That's it. You got to do the work. And if you're in a relationship, both people have to do the work. And if they don't, it's not going to. You got to be willing to change. And your partner got to be willing to change. Not just for each other, but for God. And everything that you do in your relationship will glorify him. Okay, y'all. I'm sorry. Let me close this out. I told you y'all gonna keep me rambling. Guys, let's go ahead and go to prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us life, health, and strength. God, thank you for this beautiful day. God, thank you for the storms that we go through. God, thank you for the people that you put in our lives. We don't know if it's for a season. We don't know if it's for a lifetime. But God, I just thank you. And I pray that every single person who was going through a huge struggle in their relationships, whether that's with family, work, friends, or just their significant others, God, that they understand that that soil has to be planted by you, God, and that they take up anything that is not of you and remove it out of their lives and replace it so that way you can strengthen their relationship and strengthen their faith and strengthen their ability to just be able to grow spiritually, not just by themselves, but with you and with their significant other, with their family member, with their coworkers, with every aspect that needs that type of healing. God, I just ask right now that you just intervene into the lives of the other person on the screen where they need it. God, maybe their hearts long for it, but their words can't speak it, God. I just thank you so much for what you have done and what you will continue to do in my life, in their lives. And I pray that they have a good rest of their day, good rest of their week. Amen. Amen, guys. Thank you so much. I am so blessed that you guys are here. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and guys, keep up with me on all social media platforms. Look at my description. Look at my bio. I have the links there. Click them. Okay? So I can interact with you guys, get to know you guys better, and y'all get to know me better. God bless. See you next week.